And that gives you the full. How do you synchronize then?
Yeah, this is just for backup, and also if it's good, I post it to YouTube. But this is the audio. So I just use the voice recorder. It gives really good audio quality.
Okay. Test 1 2.
Yeah. As soon as she stops talking. Have a pleasant journey. Do testing. I work. You test too.
I work.
Yeah, you put a little bit closer. Although you can speak loud, so that's it. Yeah. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Captain Future Show. I'm here with Otto Scharmer. We're on a train to the Oslo airport, and this is the only chance we get to do this conversation. So you have to bear with us if there's a lot of train sound in the background. So, welcome Otto to the Captain Future Show.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's a little transition. I feel a little guilty coming into this beautiful town only for a day. So that's a little like violating all the principles.
All the principles of traveling.
of traveling and slowness and so on. But that was the only way it was possible this time. So apart from that guilt, I'm great.
You're great, yeah. And I usually start with a question, what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future? Well, my hopes for the future are that we get our act together.
Yeah, of course.
So, was when you look at what's happening, right? Well, you see, a lot of negativity being amplified, a lot of divisiveness, the architectures of separation, basically versions of imploding society, right, destroying connections. And we see a lot of the opposite. By the way, the first part, much supported by existing social technologies and social media, as we all know.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about using technology more intentionally for developing social technologies that allow us to create, activate generative social fields. That's what I'm most excited about, and it has to do with a shift in consciousness that I think can be supported through a new way of doing systems thinking and consciousness-based systems thinking intervention. So that excites me. I see it in many places. I see us being part of, including the people we just met at the conference here, part of a global movement, right? That's in the making. But it's a global movement that's not yet fully aware of itself.
Yeah, not yet, really.
Not yet, yeah.
But we're making it happen.
On our way.
On our way. Yeah. We're on a train to the future, making it happen. Yeah.
We are on the train to somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
And whatever the destination is, we'll find out when we arrive.
We can find out, yeah. I like to say the future is not a destination; it's a direction. Yeah. What's your definition of the future?
I'm not sure I really have one.
Yeah.
I think
But when we say the word, what does that imply?
Well, I think most of the future science and stuff tends to produce things that are usually wrong. And because the biggest mistake is to think about the future as an extension of the past.
Yeah.
And what I'm interested in is a different access to the future, and a different way of dealing with disruption, which is by connecting to the present moment much more fully.
Much more fully to the present.
So, in other words, so I'm less interested in making assumptions and creating brain stuff about the future. I'm more interested in deepening my capacity to sense into emerging future possibilities as an individual, but also how to support that on an organizational level. And I think that's really interesting stuff, and it needs a method, and it's different than just kind of your usual ideas about your projections about the future. Let's put it that way.
Are there the movement for the methods and such? Are the method evolving as you're using it and looking into it? I think the method you're referring to are what you do in u.lab and or something like that.
Yeah, u.lab tries to provide some methods and tools for that, and that is evolving. That's very much work in progress. The three main things are, I would say, probably the four main things are kind of setting your intention and creating a container, right? So when you do it with a group, you need to set a container. You need to bring the core group that moves in this process together. The second thing is like observing the system from the edges, that you go on a journey of discovery, moving out into the world and seeing the world through new eyes, seeing your system through new eyes, and basically putting yourself into the places of most potential. And then it's like deep reflection techniques, of which, and that's kind of where we develop new things, like social presence in theater would be an example, right? That was presented earlier.
Yeah, I've done a 2-day course in that. So
all right, So you should talk about it.
I should talk about it.
It's your show.
It's your show.
Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah.
So what is social presence in theater? Tell them.
Tell them. For me, it's a connection with the body language and a deeper understanding what happens between people when we do talk. When you do you sense what's going on instead of talking and thinking about it, I guess.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I mean, there's so much talk about change. I mean, the biggest obstacle, right? The biggest gap in the world is not between rich and poor. That's another big one, right? But you know what the biggest one is? Is stuff we know and stuff we do, right? The knowing-doing gap, right? So all the sustainability issues, all of that. So the knowing-doing gap cannot be addressed by more thoughts, cannot be addressed by more ideas and more programs, right?
No.
It can only be addressed if we make visible the deep territory of social systems, the deeper territories of the social field, kind of the stuff that prevents us from getting things done. And kind of making this visible and making that visible to the system, right? So that the system begins to see itself, or subsets of the system microcosms of the system begin to see themselves. That's where the shift happens. So that's my experience, and that's why methodologies like social presence in theater are like an interesting thing that we have been creating and experimenting with. And then, of course, there is the whole prototyping. There's all the design thinking tools and so on. But what I find is you need to design thinking is great, but it came originally out of product innovation, right? So if you want to apply these principles to social transformation, to the evolution of communities, of societies, you need to bring in the dimension of self, the dimension of consciousness a little bit more explicitly. And so that's kind of the blend on the learning by doing part, right? So those are the main things.
I guess on a personal level, how do you respond to the methods when you use them on yourself?
How do I respond? Well, I mean, as an action researcher, that's what you always do. I mean, that's really kind of the... so that's why I actually came to America, right? So that was the reason. So because I learned in my earlier European environment, I learned, how to think about everything and develop solutions and blah, blah, blah. Basically, right? Know everything, do nothing.
Do nothing,
And I was sick and tired of that, right? So I wanted to be more helpful, more useful. So that's why I came to MIT. I joined the MIT Learning Center, and a small group there, which is engaged in the tradition of action science, action research, which starts with the principle that you cannot understand a system unless you change it. So that you're part of your own laboratory, that you need to step into the process and can't just watch it from outside. That has been the very reason why I came here. So in that way, the self-experimentation is always the litmus test.
Of course.
It's always the foundation, really. So that's why I end up doing most of the tools that we develop were developed through applications that we stumbled into. So I use them for myself. probably not, I have the same lack of discipline, probably, like everyone else.
Yeah, like
in
me too.
in other words, kind of, own organization, how much do you do the sensing journey? So yeah, we try to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we succeed more and sometimes we succeed less.
Yeah.
That's how it is. And then
Yeah.
you notice that, you bring yourself back on track. And,
Yeah. That's how conscious work are done. You try to notice what yourself apply to yourself, I guess.
Yeah, that's true for all the and the interesting thing is more early on I was much more judgmental about myself, right? All my failures
Yeah.
and screw ups and what you don't do
What you don't do, yeah.
until you realize that this is really a lack of it's kind of a waste of energy, right?
Yeah.
If I put my attention on all my deficiencies, right, of which there are many,
Yeah.
so I'm amplifying that thing, right? And if I put my attention on the small thing that I actually got right? Let's say I did like a 10-minute stillness,
Yeah.
mindfulness practice in the morning, right? Just 10 minutes, right? And that's what you connect with, and that's kind of where you activate a different energy cycle within yourself. So that's so I'm still like screwing up, something is not screwed up, but where I pay attention to, you need to always pay attention to both, otherwise you're right.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of less transfixed by the failures. Of course, if you look into the bigger picture, right, we live in the age of Trump,
Age of Trump.
and that's collectively what happens to us, right?
Yeah.
We are paralyzed, many of us, by one shock and crisis after another, right? So it's like following Trump puts you, which is what we do in our public, puts us on a path to collective attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, right? So we are, because we are not staying on anything. So this morning there was a major crisis, but even in the afternoon I cannot attend to that because the next thing happened that he caused.
Yeah.
So that puts us into this kind of reactive and in part paralyzing track of energy. And that's where I think we as a movement need to pull us out of. And it has been many parallels with what you need to do with your personal attention as well. So I think one of the most exciting areas of innovation in the future is really how to work with political will in a new way, right? And that's where we lack innovation, right? We have all the other gadgets.
Yeah, the tech sector has no lack of innovation.
And, so there's but it's all the wrong things,
all
right?
the wrong things.
So we know this very device, right? On the table, even if you don't look at it, right? It reduces your IQ, right? It's draining your brain power. Research shows, right? It's not only distraction. We knew that. What we didn't know is even if you do not pay attention at all, and it's close to you, it's draining your brain power.
Yeah, the brain, the subconscious pays attention to it.
So that's I think of course we are not going to get rid of these things.
No,
so we need to cultivate. We need to strengthen ourselves,
train ourselves and be aware.
And what we need to do even more is to do that collectively.
Yeah.
Right? So we need another media, right? Another type of social media and another type of traditional media that is honing in on not only what's wrong with the world, like the Trumps, but that's honing in on where is actually right now the seed of the future. Because everyone working in the field of innovation and social innovation, we know the future is already here. We are just not really paying attention to it.
No, you have to tune in collectively and individually.
And you need to hold the space for that collectively. And that is something that needs technology, and it needs kind of a social technology of holding the space. And I think that's one of the most, when you think about the future of our country, when you think about the future of democracy and the future of media, I would say that's one of the most important areas of innovation. And I would say not enough attention is going into that because I was sharing the story. I was talking with impact investor the other day from a big one of the tech giants, right? And I basically described this opportunity, right? So that we have, which needs a different kind of money. It's a different more dedicated capital.
Yeah.
And she said, well, we in Silicon Valley, people don't like to give away their money, right? So it's and if they do, and of course some people do, we know that. If they do, it's usually under these three conditions. Technology is the solution.
Yeah.
So it's a gadget.
It's
another
a gadget.
one.
It's an app.
An app, of course. But maybe something else, but still technology.
Still tech, yeah.
Number two, it must be solvable in 10 years, right? So that takes out everything that's like really systemic, critical.
Yeah.
Right? If you think in historic, and if you think about the real challenges we face as a society, and none of that is solved. You can make progress. And the third one is the funder calls the shots. Stays in
the ego.
Yeah. So that's like that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
And I think, but there's enough, particularly in Silicon Valley, but also in other places, there's enough intelligent capital. And that's what we need to mobilize. We need more intelligent capital. And what is intelligent capital? It's smart enough that it's not extractive, but it invests itself into the commons. It's investing itself into the renewal of a social, democratic, ecological, and economic commons. Right? So it's kind of the soil. It's the soil of the social field that's not cultivated. And if you look into agriculture, I'm coming from a farm, right? It's the same problem. Industrial agriculture is destroying the soil, right? And kind of sustainable agriculture is building soil. And we have the same in social systems, right? We're destroying the soil. That's exactly what's going on, and that's exactly what kind of the whole system Trump is doing. And what we need to do is to get our act together and to rebuild the soil.
Yeah, we have to do that. Really great talking to you, Otto, and I think we're closing into the airport, so any final words of wisdom?
Final words of wisdom
for the viewers and listeners.
Well, I think all of this. I mean, I think we need. We are in a really critical moment where so much positive things is happening, and yet we are not catalyzing as a movement yet. Yeah. And what are enabling infrastructures for that? I think that's a really
enabling infrastructures for catalyzing the movement, amplifying it, like you said.
Yeah, amplifying it, and making that movement aware of itself, right? Yeah. Because we have lots of great initiatives and lots of wonderful stuff, and I think we are seeing it already in many degrees on a local level, but we need to aggregate that up. And so I would say that's how we work in the West, right? We innovate bottom up. That's our that's our impulse.
We are closing in, so thanks for sharing that wisdom with us.
Bye,
everybody.
Thank you for traveling.